Have you ever noticed how sometimes by the time you figure things out, it's already too late? I find that's the case with so many things in life. Maybe in parenting and maybe with our finances also. In this video, I'm going to talk about wealth building after 50. After you sort of figure things out, but you go, I would have done that differently if I had it to do over. Hi, I'm Camille Gaines. I'm a personal finance author, and I write at retirecertain.com about creating multiple income streams after age 50, along with what I've learned from investing since I was in my early 20s, which was a while ago. I personally invest. I don't manage wealth for others, so I write about my own experience of investing and what I've learned over the years. In this video, I want to talk about what I found when I researched wealth building over 50 or after 50 years old online. It was really interesting. It seems like the articles were either really focused on insurance products such as annuities and things like maybe deferring Social Security, or they were focused on more personal finance things. But I want to have a little bit of a rant in this video before I tell you the tips that I wrote about in this particular blog post at retirecertain.com, which I just put up. And the things that I found regarding personal finance and the wealth building tips after 50. Okay, let me give you a few examples, and I may need to refer to my notes throughout this video. I'm sure I will. I've got my article open on the screen up here, so I want to refer to it. But I wanted to sit down and talk to you instead of actually taking you to my website. So the first one that I found, or one of the ones I found that was fairly common, was to invest your pocket change. So if you're over 50 and you're investing your pocket change as a strategy for wealth building before you want to retire in 10, 15, 20 years, something like that, then I don't think that that has enough impact, right? So that was one of the ones I saw. One of the other suggestions that I saw for wealth building after 50 was to track your spending. Well, tracking your spending is important at any stage as a personal finance, way to stay focused on your spending and prioritize your spending. And actually, I think also it leads to wealth accumulation, but it's not a way to build wealth after 50. One of the other things I saw was to read a lot. Not sure about that one either. I can see how maybe reading about from a really good source, the right source, a reliable and unbiased source might lead you to invest smarter if you were learning about investing, but I'm not really sure that that was the point. I think it was more about just reading so you weren't spending your time doing other things. And then the last one that I saw that I commonly see as a way to build wealth is to cut out your lattes. Now that got famous by the author David Bach and his latte factor, or latte effect, or something to do with lattes. And it was if you cut out your lattes that you could accumulate, I don't know, something like over $90,000 after a period of 40 years. Well, if you're over 50, as the focus of this article was, and they're referring to 40 years, then you're talking about by the time you're 90, you would have reached the objective of the latte factor, or the example in the latte factor. So the problem is that so much of investing, the things that you see online, the articles, the content you see, the videos you see, are about buy and hold long-term investing, passive index investing, which works great if you're really young and you have 2 or 3 decades to save money. Now, there's a whole other, a lot more I could say about that, right? As far as market cycles and that type of thing. But just the plain old buy and hold passive index investing, yes, it can work great over long periods of time. But if you're over 50, say you're 55 or 60, and you say, oops, I don't have enough money saved, then long-term buy and hold investing, well, long-term, if you're wanting to retire at 65 and you're 60, well, long-term is not 5 years. So that's the problem, is then what is there to do for people that are over 50 as far as, getting where they want to be before they retire? And I think that a lot of the mainstream financial community and the way things are geared toward that passive long-term investing versus being later in life and you're not where you want to be, I think that it ends up, there's just a lack of content and information. So I threw together what I found to really, sort of work, and what has worked for us. You may have read on my blog that we, in my late midlife, my husband's a little bit older than me, we started, we said, wow, I don't think we're going to be where we want to be. What should we do? And we started creating these alternative income streams, and we started with oil and gas, and then real estate, and then we started online businesses, and it's worked great. And it's been a wonderful learning adventure over the past almost 15 years now. So I write about that, but looking back over that adventure, what did I learn that has made a difference for us? And I put these tips together in this post that I've created. So I want to share them with you in this video. Now I have to refer to my notes because I don't remember all of them, but I do remember my first one is my very favorite, and that is to create online, it's to create online assets, right? We are in an incredible time where you can actually reach a global market for less than $100. You can throw up a blog, you can write, or you can create videos, or you can share what you've learned, which is kind of a lot by the time you're over 50, right? And you can reach a global market for less than $100. I think we'll look back, and maybe I won't be around when happens. I think people will look back, my kids will look back, and they will say, wow, that was an incredible opportunity. I think that it will become more and more expensive to be able to do this. Just like now, if you want to reach a market locally, you have to go, open a store and have a brick and mortar location. But now you can reach a global market for under $100. So this allows you to create an online property. It's an asset that you own and you can control yourself. And it's an unprecedented opportunity. And that's what really led me to start blogging about 13 years ago on financialwoman.com. It's just seeing this opportunity and going, wait a minute, there's something big here going on. I'm going to just get in and start messing around and probably mess up a lot, which I promise you I did, and learn how this works. And fortunately, we did, and it took a while. But that's number one, and I won't talk as long about all the other ones because I've got a lot. Okay, so that's number one, but that one excites us a lot, and that's to create an online property for less than $100. And let me just point out, and I put this in my article, you could build that for under $100. So say you spend $100, you could actually make back the $100 definitely within 6 months, definitely a year. But, when we built one of our online properties, we had made back our money so many times over within just a few months. And so I don't want to say that that's always the case. There are a lot of factors, but you can definitely make back your money if you do it correctly within 6 to 12 months. Absolutely. But not just make it back, make that come in every single month. So if you put $100 in and you make $100 a month, after that, then the return on your investment is incredible. And I realize we're talking about just $100 here, but you can multiply that. It's very, very scalable. So that's number one. Number two is to change your mindset. So what got you here, if you're over 50 and you are not happy with where you are financially, the mindset that got you to where you are at the state of not being happy with where you are, not being where you need to be, is probably not going to get you to where you want to be, right? So that's number two, is simply to change your mindset. And I could say more about that, but I'll leave it at that so I can get through my list. Okay, the next one is to consider downsizing. I've done another video on this. I've got a long article about this on my site. We've looked at this. We have a pretty big house, but we do have our offices here, and our kids are around a lot. So we're staying put for right now, but the whole downsizing thing really makes a lot of sense for a lot of people, I think, that bought a bigger home based on kind of the way things used to be in the 90s when things were bigger and better, and maybe they had kids and they just don't need the space anymore. So for a lot of reasons, I think downsizing can make a lot of sense for wealth building after 50. And my list here are things that really have an impact. They're way bigger than the latte factor, right? They're bigger than the $25 a month you're going to save by cutting out your lattes. We're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars. Downsizing, yeah, there's a lot that we could talk about with that financially. But these are things that have a lot of impact on your wealth building after 50. Or earlier, right? You implement some of these earlier and wow, it could really make a difference. The next one is to own your highest skill. And what I mean by owning it is recognize it, allow it, embrace it. That highest skill is what will change your financial future. Whether you're a great, inventor, you're good at like thinking up things and inventing it, a great writer, a great attorney, a great marketer, a great artist, a great teacher, author, writer, whatever it is. Whatever you're good at, it's your highest skill that you love doing, that you know you can help other people with, then own it and allow yourself to embrace it. I think that we were taught to play small as children, especially the boomer generation and older generations. And I think that's kind of gone away, right? We can agree that we haven't done that with our kids and the millennials, right? But when we were kids, we weren't encouraged to embrace those skills. So identify your highest skill. There's your opportunity, right, to create positive change around your life and your money. That's the next one. All right. Next is, I love this one. Create a list of wealth building opportunities. Okay. So, just think of if you had to come up with, say, $50,000, and say somebody kidnapped a family member, and they said we have to have this $50,000 over the next 12 months, say, for example. You would put together a list, right? Or you would start thinking in your head, how am I going to come up with this money? That's what I want you to do. I want you to think about what are the opportunities, but don't do it from a place of fear like somebody's been kidnapped, but so much as in a place of opportunities and seeing the world as your oyster, because it truly is. And there are all these different opportunities to create wealth now, not just online business. I love that. And other assets are inflated now. Stocks are expensive, real estate's expensive. So another reason I love online business right now. But nevertheless, there are opportunities there waiting to be had. And so think of and make a list of opportunities that you can use or do to create wealth. And don't forget your highest skill, because you're going to incorporate that into your list. The next one I want to share with you is, I like this one too. Think wealth, not bill paying. So if your goal is to make another $500, $1,000 a month so that you can cover all your bills without having to dip into your savings, you're going to have certain ideas. But if your idea is to make $1 million within 5 years or another $1 million within 5 years, you're going to think differently, right? You're going to have a different mindset around that. So what I want you to do is think in terms of wealth, not in terms of paying the bills. Not only is it like away from scarcity when you're like, oh, how am I going to pay my bills? But it's just big and it's much more expensive, and you'll come up with much bigger and more expansive possibilities. The next wealth building tip after 50 is buy cheap quality assets. I talk about this all the time. I write about it. Gosh, what can I say? Your dollar buys more when you buy cheap assets, whether that's, same principle applies to groceries, to clothes, cashmere sweaters on sale, whatever it is. You get more for your money when you buy things on sale, yet so often, almost always, investors don't apply this to their investments. The same is true with investing. Buy cheap assets. This is also known as value investing, but then there's also blood in the streets investing, like on March 2009. So just think, I'm going to buy cheap assets from now on, instead of buying just because I decided it was time to get into the stocks or time to get into real estate, or this kind of might make sense. Think about, as your foundation, what you pay for an asset. The next one is to invest your bonus in cheap assets. One of the tips I saw online that I did like for wealth building after 50 was to invest your bonus. I like that. But what if you had invested your bonus, your entire bonus, into stocks in mid-2007? Boom. Then 2 years later, it's, or a year later, it's half of what it was. A year and a half later, I guess. It's a half of what it was. So invest your bonus, yes, but invest your bonus into cheap assets. The next tip is to leverage your time, okay? So if a lot of people feel like they don't have time to look into rental real estate. They don't have time to research stocks. They don't have time to meet with their financial advisor. They don't have time to invest. They don't have time to create an online business. They don't have time to make a blog. But what if you took a lot of the things you do that you could hire someone for $12, depending on where you live, really sort of $8 to $12, maybe a student to do a lot of the things that you do, errands, there's so many things. I love delegating. So I could come up with a long list, but I guarantee you can as well. So what if you gave away or hired someone to do those tasks for you? Not only would you help them, but you would come up with more time. That's leveraging your time. And then you're able to do those higher level things that will change your financial future. The next tip is to leverage your money. Now, leverage your money has a bad association with it. But for example, what if you bought a rental property and you put 30% down, 25, 30, 40%, whatever works for you, 50%. Then you could buy another rental property. You're able to control more assets with a lesser amount of money, and that allows you to do more with your money. Now, I know there's that whole thing about having to pay finance charges. Financing is really cheap now, and it's a valid point. You end up spending more money when you finance things. There's no doubt. My husband and I have really been talking about that lately. It's really bothering us. But nevertheless, sometimes that's what works, and sometimes if you have a shorter time period for which to reach your goals, then you may need to leverage. The next thing I want to share with you is to simply max out your retirement plan contributions. Wow, this is so huge. It's not so common anymore, but some employers do still match their employees' savings contributions. So that's completely free money. And I did this when I was way back when and working in corporate in my accounting job, and I would do anything to come up with that money to save every month to get that 100% matching by my employer. So free money, even if you do that for 2 or 3 years, it's so worth it. And over a long period of time, it's huge. So take advantage of that for sure, even if you're going to retire in 2 or 3 years. The next thing I would mention is, where am I on my list? Diversify assets and income streams. Yeah, super important. So, for example, we love writing cover calls. I love writing cover calls. My husband doesn't really. I do. But cover calls only work in bull markets, for example. So that's not going to work so good in a bear market. And I'm a little nervous about it near the end of a real strong bull market too. Because stocks are overvalued. So what else have I got going on that would keep working during a bear market? Well, rent checks keep coming in. In fact, they work quite well because a lot of people put off buying until the economy picks back up or the stock market gets going upward again. So that's an example. Online income tends to keep coming in. Think of things that, one will work when the other one doesn't. The traditional method is stocks versus bonds, but you can go way bigger than that and diversify both in your business, in your investments, in your assets. The next wealth building tip I want to share with you is to always keep a high credit score. Very, very little work, no work, half an hour, it's free. You may as well keep it clean, keep it high. That way your financing is lower when you do find something you want to buy, if you want to get a loan. And it also lowers your insurance costs. I recently learned that it helped us save on our insurance a little bit. So there's no reason not to do it. Keep a high credit score. The next tip is to lower your investment fees. If you can lower your total investment fees by 1%, then you're able to keep that extra 1% return. if you think about how hard it is for a fund manager or for anyone really to beat the index with a simple investing, passive investing method, or even like a fund manager by 1% a year, time in, year in, year out, almost impossible. So if you can lower your investment costs by over, 1%, or at 0.5% or 1% or sometimes more. I've worked with coaching clients who are paying over 2%. And if we can knock off, 1% by changing advisors or talking to their advisor, negotiating their fees, lowering their fees, getting out of funds that are so expensive while they're also paying wealth management on top of that. So there are different ways that you can do this depending on where you are right now, but that's a big one. The next strategy I would share is to use calculators. I don't know why more people don't just plug their numbers in and play with calculators. I've got several on my website at retirecertain.com. I've done another video on using my calculator. Gosh, they're great tools to estimate where you're headed, where you're going, how long your money will last. The next tip I'd like to share is to plan and save to lower your taxes. Estimate about how much you think your income will be. Do this in the fall, or winter before the new year while you still have time to have some impact on your calendar year, and call your CPA, meet with your CPA, see what you can do before year end in a way that things that you can do that could lower your taxes. Things like tax loss harvesting, or perhaps paying your property taxes early. There may be some other things that you could do, maybe some kind of retirement fund contribution. So plan ahead, and that's how you end up saving on your taxes, is when you look at it ahead of time. When you do it on April 15th, it's sort of too late to make a difference. That's what I wanted to share with you in this video. I've got this entire article along with some graphs and charts that support the data at retirecertain.com. Head over and read it. And thank you for watching my video. If you found it helpful, I'd love it if you'd click the little thumbs up button in the lower corner of the video. Let me know that you liked it, and I appreciate your watching.